What's up, my dude? Spency boy, Rut Tester, MXGP3. What the heck is the turkey boy up to now? Gobble gobble, I don't even know. Oh my gosh. We are back on what some people would consider the greatest milestone game ever. I would just about consider it that for its time. You know, you got to remember this game came out before the official Supercross games. It came out before, you know, MXGP Pro, MXGP 2019, MXGP 2020 came out before all those Supercross 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So for its time, I mean, this game was like, when you look back on it now, I mean, just to give you a little example, this game has more terrain deformation than MXGP 2020. Like, what the actual fuck, Milestone? Like, please explain that to me. I am still dumbfounded by that. I just can't figure that one out. This game came out like, I don't even know what, like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. And it has more terrain deformation in it than our modern day MXGP games that just came out in 2020. So, yeah. So, I'm in here doing a little Rut Tester video because some of you guys recommended that I came back in here and took a look at MXGP 3 after talking about, you know, the terrain deformation in Supercross 4. And kind of talking about that, I saw a couple of you guys commenting that you could really dig into the ruts on MXGP 3's terrain deformed ruts and shit like that. So it definitely made me curious, and it's been a long time since I've really came back in here and played some of this MXGP3, trying to actually like run a bunch of laps on a certain track and see really what the terrain deformation actually does. So I got in here and kind of messed around on a couple tracks trying to find one that would show this off the best that I could here. A big part of why it looks like that, or why you get the idea that you're really digging into these ruts, is just because of MXGP3 has so much more of a, like, the bike will, when you start steering in the corner, that shit bites. That shit digs into the dirt and starts to drive out of the corner in a very specific direction. You know, there is no wheel spin in this game. There is no, you know, they started introducing that like in MXGP Pro, Supercross 2, giving you, you know, more of that wheel spin effect. This game is probably the most, like, start steering, you know, corner the bike, shoot the bike in a certain direction, and that shit's gonna go. You know, that shit's gonna bite in the corner, it's gonna gain all kinds of traction in the corner, and it's gonna, you know, squirt out of the corner in a way that it doesn't really do in pretty much any other milestone game out there, right? So the point that I'm trying to make here is simply the fact that if you took any other, you know, milestone game like Supercross 1, Supercross 2, MXGP Pro, whatever, you know, MXGP 2019, whatever the heck kind of game you want, Supercross 3, you know, if you took any of those games and any of those games' physics and slapped it into this game, you would not think that this terrain deformation was as good as what you think it is, right? If you had any more of a sliding effect with the back wheel and all that kind of stuff in this game, you know, like what you have in MXGP Pro, Supercross 2, Supercross 3, you know what I'm saying? If you had any more of that sort of a slide effect, you wouldn't have that same kind of feeling like you're digging in a rut in this game that you have. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, now that I've got in here and went back and played on this, like, yeah, this probably is the best milestone terrain deformation we've ever had before. It probably is. Like, it's insane how some of these aspects they've just kind of went backwards on with a lot of their modern games. And but I think that's where a lot of people really enjoy the physics of MXGP3, is just the fact of that digging into a corner, you know, that it digs into a corner and it goes. There ain't no fucking spinning out. There ain't no bullshit. It digs and it goes, and you feel like you're moving in this game. You know, you feel like you're actually going somewhere, which is always a good thing. Games like MXGP 2019 and 2020 feel way too slow. Look at the jump right there, though. Like, you do not come off the ground like that in MXGP 2020 on those tracks. You just don't. Let me wad my shit. But, like, you just don't, straight up. So I can definitely see a lot of these people talking about how they enjoyed MXGP3, certain elements of this game, better than a lot of these modern milestone games. Trust me, dog, I can definitely see where you're coming from. It's just unbelievable how some of these aspects were actually better all the way back in MXGP3. It's insane. You know, terrain deformation is at least on point for when this game came out, you know what I mean? As far as like in milestones, terrain deformation development, you know, timeline. Was this the very first game they ever had terrain deformation, or was it MXGP 2? I can't remember exactly, but that's the shittiest part about it all, is the fact that this was the most terrain deformation they ever had. You know, all the way back in MXGP3, they just still have not really developed their terrain deformation any more than what it was in this game. It's kind of like you're in a rut when you're not even in a rut. That's basically the way I would explain this game. It's kind of like you're digging in a solid-ass rut even when there's nothing on the track, you know? That's the way it feels. So when you put just a slight little terrain deformation little thing there, it's going to give it just that slight little bit, even more so digging into it. See that right there? It's going to give it just that slight little bit more where it'll kind of direct the bike a little bit. You know, and I think it's kind of giving some people the illusion that it's like this super terrain deformation digging into a terrain deformed rut, right? But it's really not quite to that level. It's just not. So either way, but certainly interesting seeing this going back to this game here. Look at that fucking jump. God damn. Like, where has that jump size gone? That is so crazy how they've just reverted back on all that with these modern day milestone games. So much more fun factor to the jumping here on MXGP3. Absolutely no doubt about it. So I'm trying to run as many laps as I can here on this track just to get a little bit better of a look. And of course, it's with a full Gator riders, right? Full Gator riders. So if you're in here in single player, it's not going to do this much. If you're in here in multiplayer with like 2 or 3 of your buddies, it's not going to do this much. This is strictly when you have a full Gator riders on a track. You know, this is kind of the vibe that you get here. So, whoa, you can jump that jump pretty far in. See that right there? I'm digging into the outside berm. I just want to clarify that, you know. I don't want some of you guys to see me really fucking digging into that right there and think that's the terrain deformation, because it's not. It's like you just ever so slightly kind of bank into these. It starts to kind of make like an inside berm a little bit, and you just ever so slightly kind of bank into that. And but this ain't no multiple rut line development. This ain't no, you know, it's not really anything even close to that. Whoa, them tough blocks are still out. What the fuck? Where's the track crew? God damn. Get them tough blocks back in, track crew. What you doing, bro? But yeah, and just the speed feeling of this game. It's got such an effect to the physics where when you get on the brakes and then you get on the gas in a corner, it just feels like you're literally hitting a NOS button, you know? When that bike fucking bites in a corner and then you get on, look at that. It's like you're just like you're hitting a fucking NOS button, right? It's like, whoa, it's like you definitely got an effect to the physics of like just the absolute most bite you could ever have on a dirt bike, traction wise, right? And that thing steers and it goes in whatever direction you got it steered at, like that right there, right? Little scrubby action, little scrubby off the face. But you can see here, I mean, we're still going. We're probably on like lap 15, 10 or 15 right here. I don't really know. But you can see that rut right there. Just kind of built a little banking into that rut. It does a little bit. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and lie about it. It does a little bit. You're gonna bank into these like little inside, almost like little berms that it kind of develops. You're gonna bank into them just a little bit, but this ain't no real solid terrain deformation system. So that was kind of my point to this video here. But this is definitely better than any other Milestone game, though. I want to clarify by saying that now that I've gotten back in here. This is definitely the best terrain deformation of any Milestone game, and there's no doubt about that. There really is just no doubt about that. Fuck, dude. Couldn't even, like, get out of that corner without that guy hitting me. But, and it does seem to be doing a little bit more as I go here. You know, I'm riding a little bit more on this track in particular than I did those other two. And it's doing just a little bit more. So that's definitely a positive here. I'm just trying to get an idea on it here, guys, because it's been a while since I've really been in here in MXGP 3 really running a bunch of laps like this. See that right there? I'm banking into that outside berm. Let's see right here. You know, this kind of starting to get it just a little bit. You know, and this one kind of starts to build like a little berm right there, just a little bit. It's like it builds it up just enough in a corner to where it just starts to kind of steer your bike for you just a little bit. And with how much traction and bite that you have in this game, that's all you need for it to direct the bike in a different direction, you know? That's all it takes in this game for it to just barely steer that bike, and then you're gassing, and it's like you never really have to let off the gas in the corners, you know? It's like it just gets just enough bite, and then, you know, where you got just enough of that little bit of raised area in a spot, it does just enough to kind of steer the bike, and yeah. So let's see what we got here. I'm just going to keep on going on this track because I'm just curious. This one is starting to kind of do a little bit more. There's no real pop-off system to this game, though. That's for damn sure. I'm Oh, good one, dog. Get caught up on it there, bro. That is interesting how they just had no, like, tough block, you know, respawning system to this game, apparently. But, yeah, there's definitely a little bit going on here. There's a little bit. Damn, baby, all I need is a little bit. There's a little bit. And certainly when you compare this to some of the other Milestone games, it's like, whoa! You know, it can kind of give you that impression that it's like, whoa, look at these ruts. Because there basically has never even been a terrain deformation in any of these Milestone games ever before, so you're comparing it to something that's so not even in the realm, you know what I'm getting at? You can bank it into that berm, that pre-made berm, right? But like if you're not getting on the brakes and really forcing yourself to kind of guide the bike kind of the direction of the rut, it's not really going to go in it. You're still going to blow through it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really still do have to slow down, get the bike steered in the rut's direction, or you're just going to blow through it like it's any other Milestone rut. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, either way, that's kind of my take on it here. Best terrain deformation in any Milestone game. I don't really think there's any question in that. But still, this is far, far, far from a reflex level terrain deformation. You know, far from some of the more hardcore, solid rut developing and roughness developing terrain deformation systems that we have in some of these other motocross games. You can see it digging there. Little bit more, just a little bit more. It's doing a little bit. It is. It's doing a little bit, but certainly not anything crazy. when you compare it to all other motocross games out there. Certainly not anything crazy. Okay, so I rode another 4 or 5 laps on the track here just to kind of get it a little more deformed, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm actually pretty impressed with what it's doing, like, after that, 10 lap point, if you will, right? That's where I'm starting to notice it really starting to change when you get up in the 15. I think you can run like 20 laps on a track in this game, 20 lap race. That's the maximum, I'm pretty sure. So I should be getting fairly close to that here. But like once you get it to the very, very end of a race, that's the point when you're actually going to start, noticing like an actual somewhat of a grabbable rut in some of that. Still, it's no reflex level grabbable rut, right? I just have to clarify, it's still not that. But yes, it certainly does start to make it a little more, in particular in certain corners, I'm noticing. And one little thing I'm also noticing is it is starting to kind of notch out the corner just a little bit, which is really cool. I like that effect a lot. Kind of getting to where it, you can see me kind of digging in right there a little bit. Then right here in this corner, kind of notched out that little part right before that single. Makes it kind of feel like there's a little bit of a little rough spot in it, which is cool as shit. I really like that a lot. So yeah, I mean, when you go in here and you run a literal full fucking 20 lap race, yeah, you're going to start to see something towards the last 5 laps of a race. But up to that point, it really don't do a whole lot of anything. I mean, other than visual, right? But like I say, once you start kind of getting a little more towards the very, very end of a race, you will start to kind of notice it a little more here. So let's just see. Let's see what we do. Of course, it's a rut tester video, right? I'm trying to see what it does when you run the maximum amount of laps on a track. Still got the tough blocks out there, bruh. But there's a lot of corners where it doesn't really do that at all. Like specifically this corner right here, even with running full laps, it really still hasn't made any kind of an inside rut line on that corner. Same with this corner right here. Still hasn't really done anything like that in that corner. 2 corners I'm noticing it the most specifically is this one right here. It's kind of made like a middle line. You can see it right there. And then this corner right here as well. It's made a rut specifically right there. And those are really the only main 2 corners that have done any kind of an actual rut in the corner. This corner up here, I keep hitting the outside because I'm hitting the berm, right? Like I'm hitting the berm. I'm not hitting a deformed rut. Even though the deformation is kind of working itself into that berm a little bit, still not like a crazy level or anything, right? But these corners, it ain't doing a whole lot. I mean, just very, very small little rut in most of the corners, and then a couple of the corners, it's like, okay, now you're kind of getting somewhere. Let's see here. This corner ain't really done anything on the outside there. Let's see what we got. Okay, but yeah, there is no doubt this is the best terrain deformation in a milestone game so far. Not even close. It ain't even close. What the hell are they doing with these modern milestone games? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. But yeah, I think it's going to kind of start getting to that point where you've almost like blowed the rut out. That kind of is what it's starting to feel like to me. I can't dig into it quite as much as I was before in both those corners, so I think that's practically pretty much all it's going to do. It's going to kind of start to smooth it out at this point where you can't dig into it anyways, Whoa, that's cool. Some of those areas where they got the berm built up on the outside, you can definitely hold her pinned on that for sure. But yeah, you can feel it. You can definitely feel it. There ain't no doubt about it. And in combination with the way these ground physics are, it certainly gives you a vibe. It definitely gives you a vibe with it. No question about that. Man, I have no clue what lap we're on. We got to be close to the end at this point, though, of the 20-lap race. It's interesting trying to dodge these tough blocks. Center blocks out of that corner. That's a little comical. That's kind of funny. But either way, yeah. Rut tester video, MXGP3. I know a lot of you guys recommended I make this video. So yeah, that's about where, best terrain deformation in a milestone game, but still probably like 1/10 of the level. There we go, finish the race. Still about 1/10 of the level of the deformation of a, reflex type game, right? Maybe more like 1/5. Maybe not, I may not go to the full extent and say it's 1/10. It's probably like 1/5 of the level of the terrain deformation you'd have in reflex. But either way, that's about it for this video. Appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.